So, hi James, welcome to the podcast, and thank you very much for agreeing to speak to me. I suppose what I'm interested in is a little bit about understanding who is James and who is Digital Juggler.
Sounds like an existential question on a Friday afternoon.
It's just
yeah. So I'm an independent e-commerce consultant. My background was a head of e-com in retail brands like Robert Dyer's, but I've been independent for 16 years. And what I do is I do three things. I try and boil this down to make it simple, because I think a lot of times people wonder what the hell a consultant does do. But number one is digital strategy. So it's looking at e-commerce businesses, helping them to understand what they need to focus on and why, based on like the market, the customer, competitors, you name it. And then how do they actually put that in place? What should they be investing in? What resource structure do they need? How do they prioritize, and how do they build a roadmap to make that manageable and executable? So I've done that with brands like Tom Dixon, the Wine Society. Then that's probably about 30% of the work I do. About 50% of the work I do is technology selection, with a focus on replatforming and building out tech ecosystems. So I help people understand what they're trying to achieve, what tech fits in there, and how to structure the project, get the right governance and get the right execution of it. And I either do part of it, I do full end-to-end project management, like I'm doing at the moment with a leading UK pet care brand. And then the third bit is mentoring, training, upskilling, which can be very tactical. Somebody wants to know how to improve their site search, or it can be more strategic, ongoing, helping somebody to like develop their e-com team. So that's basically what I do.
Sounds fantastic. How did you get into it? How did you get into e-commerce as a concept?
I came back from traveling many years ago and needed a job, and just managed. I mean, that was right at the start. The first job I got in e-commerce was 2000. So we're talking literally at the early dawn of very, very badly designed websites, when it was very, very basic text and images on a page. But I just quite like the idea of online. And weirdly enough, where I worked at the time, I was working for a book club company that was building out websites to try and sell online. But above us was Amazon. Before Amazon became the absolute behemoth that it is. And it was funny in those days, because lots of people were saying, even in our company, oh no, book selling online will never work. No one's going to buy enough. And I think the likes of Amazon and BOL.com and others and various others now have proven that's probably not quite true.
Absolutely. I'm old enough to remember when Amazon only sold books, which makes you feel old. So, but yeah, Amazon did it one time, only sell books. Fantastic. So you help with replatforming, which is a very interesting thing. Are you seeing a lot of that at the moment? Is that something that a lot of people are doing, moving from legacy systems to more modern systems? Or is it when there's a specific need that they're trying to solve?
I think the market's moved on. I think if I go back to when I first focused in on replatform, because not many consultants were doing the business side, there was a lot of agencies. But there was a cyclical pattern where it was almost like every 3 to 4 years, people would replatform. And the reason why is because a lot of the legacy platforms were quite rigid, and there's quite a lot of tight coupling. Therefore, it's very difficult to evolve and change. And once you got to the point of having exhausted that platform's capabilities, and if the roadmap wasn't there to deliver the new features you wanted, you didn't have these rich ecosystems and this composability of plugging other stuff in. So you then had to rip it up, shift it, and build again. The market's moved on massively. Pick your language, composable, flexible, whatever the terminology is. The advent of microservices, APIs, etc., and greater connectivity between specialist tools and e-com platforms, whether that is SaaS like Shopify and BigCommerce, or whether it's the legacy ones like Adobe, Salesforce. And then you got other ones coming in like Centra from Scandinavia, Scale as well. There's so much more connectivity that people don't need to replatform as often, thankfully. What they need to do is build out the stack around the core platform in a more flexible way. And that's why we're seeing more people put things like proper middlewares in, so that they are less dependent on the underlying platform doing everything, and they're building that wide ecosystem. So it is still happening, but not at the same cadence as it used to. And I think people are thinking more strategically now. They're not doing it because they think they've outgrown the tech. They're looking strategically in a business about what the future architecture is needed across the business. And that sometimes means that the core ecom platform needs to be moved. to fit into that new ecosystem.
So I understand. And are you seeing a trend in specific platforms that smaller retailers might be using over bigger retailers? To be frank, is there a point where people grow out of platforms like Shopify, or are you seeing that continue into the enterprise space?
Well, previously on SaaS, yes, I think you probably would have had that because there would have been a feature gap. But Shopify, BigCommerce, even Shopline's now coming into the market as SaaS and building out really rich functionality and building out its app system. Then you've got Centra that has a huge amount of functionality and is building out its app ecosystem. What you've now got is you've got platforms that offer you small business, very easy. I can go and launch on a theme and I've got all my core functionality and features. I use your payments, excellent, versus someone who wants to now have a custom theme, or they want to build out a custom front end, and they can do that because these tools enable headless and they enable that evolution. And I think this is where SaaS has been really smart. Centra's headless by default. Shopify and BigCommerce have their themes, but they offer their own headless frameworks. And you don't have to just go from, right, I've got a standard theme to I built out an entire custom front end. You can cherry pick certain bits and put those into a headless build to give you greater flexibility. So you could build out something custom for a particular component, even if the main store stays on a theme. So you've got all these evolution journeys for people who go here in fast growth who are becoming more complex and maybe need greater levels of customization. And you can start plugging in things like, you can put in a digital experience platform. You could put in a CMS like a Sanity or a Storyblog. So there's ways of evolving on these platforms, which means you don't have to suddenly go, well, the fundamental platform's wrong. It's not. It's more about what ecosystem that sits around the tech. I
don't think it'll be any secret to any of the people watching this that from a connectivity point of view, Shopify is probably the biggest e-commerce platform that we have on our systems in relation to number of connections. But with the kind of customers that I'm talking to who are potentially more enterprise, one of the things that I've seen quite recently is a kind of an uptake of platforms that are marketing themselves around speed. And I don't necessarily mean speed of connectivity, but I mean speed of the actual website. So I'm thinking about platforms like eCommerce. I've seen quite recently good uptake of Aero. And I just, obviously speed is important, but I just wondered from your point of view, working with the companies you work with, whether that is a consideration or a concern when picking platforms like Shopify.
So speed's important, and it always will be, fundamentally because businesses are trying to sell. They're trying to deliver good customer experience in order to maximize conversion. And if you've got a crap, slow, poorly performing website, people give up. Your most loyal customers might carry on, but new people to the site will look at it and go, it's not loading. We're all guilty of it, right? We have an attention span deficit problems now because of mobile device usage. And I think I read recently some neuroscientific research that the average attention span online has shrunk by 1% in the last 5 years. So
I wonder if TikTok's had anything to do with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's all drones to the phone, but and also there is a correlation between site speed and conversion. There's enough empirical research to demonstrate that. The extent to which it impacts conversion varies wildly depending on the site. But then you come into this nuance of what are you? If you're just a commoditized site that's just selling an item that people are coming to find the best price and go, versus a brand that's building an engaged community and is developing brand loyalty over time, the level of user experience you need on the site varies. But Amazon doesn't have to have such a beautiful user experience because it's not. I can respect what Amazon's achieved, but using the site is not an enjoyable process. But they are bloody good at getting product at price to people quickly, which is why people shop there. You go to, you pick a brand, whether it's a Pangai, an Allbirds, Gymshark, you name it. They're not just trying to give you a fast site. They're trying to give you a really good, strong user experience, great brands, storytelling. And there's other dynamics there which then impact the page because you've got added elements, added functionality, richer, larger lifestyle imagery. So there's a trade-off between ultimate speed and overall user experience, and then that conversion sweet spot between the two. And I've seen sites that have stripped their pages down to make them faster and that have lost conversion rate as a result because the pages aren't working as effectively for the user. So that's my context from a commercial point of view. that leads into a platform level. There is no reason you cannot have fast sites on other platforms. I know platforms market as fast, and that's great, and they do optimization work. But you could, if you did an audit across all Shopify, BigCommerce, Centra sites, for example, all of which enable you to create custom themes where you can strip out bloat from code, because a standardized theme has so much code built in for all use cases that it's not as effective as a custom one, or in a headless environment where you completely control every last bit of code in that front end. You can get lightning fast sites, and they exist, but other sites are slow on those platforms because they haven't been optimized properly, and maybe they're not using the right, you've got tools like Yota, for example, that can optimize third-party scripts. So if you have the right engineering expertise and skills, and you're doing the right level of data analysis on the performance every time you release to check what changes impact site performance, there's no reason you can't go fast on other platforms.
Yeah, well, from my point of view, I've certainly seen very fast Shopify sites, and not singling Shopify out. I've seen very fast BigCommerce and other sites like you said. I just found it interesting that certainly with some of our customers, and I am seeing people transitioning to platforms that are marketed as we're lightning fast, so to speak. Yeah,
it is really interesting. And the beauty is there isn't a one right platform for every single business. This is why we need choice and we need variety, and all platforms have pros and cons. And the most important thing, though, is speed should not be the only driver for change. If that's the only driver for moving, I think there's a bigger problem in the business, because that you don't just move to be faster. You should look at why you want faster in your current stack before going through. I'm not saying other businesses haven't had other reasons, but just to other people listening who might not know what drives and doesn't drive replatforming, speed is but one element, and we all know it, don't we? There's so many other commercial considerations.
Yeah, on that, obviously having the data to make informed decisions is very important. Have you got any advice about tools or ways in which people can ensure they've got the data to make informed decisions?
What, in terms of should they change, or what platform?
Well, in terms of, let's say their website's not performing in the way that they would like it to sales-wise.
Yeah.
These are the 5 things to check, maybe, and then maybe bring someone like yourself in,
Yeah. So number one is basically your own analytics data to look at your key landing pages and your key conversion funnels to find out if any of the key KPIs have changed. Because the first thing, if you're not doing well, is has something changed? So has something got worse? Because if something's got worse, you then need to do your diagnostics and drive into where. For example, say your conversion rate for search journeys has reduced by 10%. Why? What's happened? Are people searching for different things? Are you getting more zero results? Has something fundamentally gone wrong in the search engine, where there's a bug and you didn't realize, and the quality of results has dropped off a cliff, which is why you have to have your dashboards monitoring your KPIs constantly to react. If you're seeing, for example, a drop-off in traffic, so maybe a good converting channel has getting fewer traffic, maybe you've got good conversion through organic search, but you're dropping off, then you go to why are we dropping off? What keywords are we dropping off on? Have we had a hit on organic visibility? That's when you need your SEO tools like a SEMrush, there's loads of different SEO tools out there to track and monitor, and do your competitor analysis to find out whether competitors have overtaken and are taking lots of your traffic from you, because there could be specific content or on-site technical issues that are affecting that. The one that's underestimated the most is the customer insight bit, is ask people, find out. And there are various ways of doing that. You've got post-purchase NPS surveys. If you're suddenly seeing your average rating on NPS drop, there's something wrong in the proposition, and then you can probe further. Using like exit intent for people who are on a page or product page, for example, and haven't added to basket, to say, is there anything we could have helped you with today? Capture information. There are so many different ways of capturing info. I think the most important thing is to start looking at data points and then question when things have changed.
100%. I think that's transferable to many industries as well, not just e-commerce. If you don't have the data, you can't make informed decisions. I think that's a very interesting point. Have you got any case studies or horror stories, or just little things that might be interesting from like when you've helped clients re-platform, where you've seen mistakes made, or just really obvious things that have gone very wrong, or anything like that?
Yeah, God, loads. Got the war wounds from many of these projects. So if I break, it's actually interesting. I was chatting with a friend of mine who's an e-com director, and he's looking at platform change at the moment. And one of the key things he wants to build out is the risk register. And this is where it starts. Not enough people build a detailed risk register. So they're not aware of what the risks are, and they don't have mitigations defined, and they're not tracking them. So if you don't understand risk and you don't track it, you can't manage it. And therein lies, and I'd say, and these project disciplines are huge. And this normally comes from people rushing into change without putting project governance up front. So starting off with properly framing your project of what are our goals, what are we trying to achieve, what are the issues we're trying to fix, why are we looking at change, what do we need, what is our scope, what are our requirements, what are our priorities, how are we measuring success, all of these things, what are our business and technical principles that are driving change, and then how are we going to run the project, what is our governance structure, how are we going to do our assessments, how are we going to evaluate. If you don't spend the time putting that structure in place up front, what happens is you go into effectively a beauty parade with some vendors and show us your platform, but you don't know what you're looking at or why. You're not objectively evaluating against specific criteria. So you're not doing apples for apples comparisons. And then you come out with often a very subjective view of, oh, we like this one better. And sometimes it's even because the vendor team are really strong and really good and great at presenting.
Yeah, good salesperson. Yeah,
yeah, and that's not critiquing. I mean, that's just generally some sales teams are stronger at convincing people that their platform's the best. And if you don't have that objective lens that pulls that apart and says, okay, but how and why and what about this? And we need to do this. And this is very custom to us. How does your platform actually deliver? It's not telling us, yes, we can, because that's just nonsense. Everyone says, yes, we can. Tick box exercise, pointless. But you want to know how, and you want to see evidence. And if there isn't evidence, you want to know that the pre-solution technical people in that vendor are able to articulate a way that it could be achieved, or demonstrate that you could do it using for example, another third party alongside their platform. So it's just lack of depth of assessment that leads people in. All the issues people see later on in projects are down to not putting the right scrutiny and due diligence up front, because that's when all the gaps start coming in and you discover in discovery that, oh shit, it can't do this. That's going to cost us another 30K. Oh, didn't realise that.
Yeah, get it, 100%. And do you see that a lot? People rushing into things, and I'm guessing if you do, it's more small businesses than bigger businesses. But you see it a lot.
I think that what happens, and it's like sometimes I will say to people, "But you don't need a consultant like me, because it's not the best use of your money. You need to get for example, an agency that builds across 3 platforms that are probably relevant to you, and do a really good assessment of your needs on those platforms. So that can work really well. But where I see it going wrong is when somebody just goes, because they've been told they need to get this done in the next couple of months. They will go and rush and speak to vendors, and they'll just get loads of salespeople pitching back. And salespeople might be very good at giving them info, but they might not understand the nuances and the implications of what the client really, really needs. So yes, rushing in is the number one thing. And if you don't have a fixed date where you have to be live on a new system, like for example, your current one's obsolete and you're not going to be able to trade as of December this year, there you've got a deadline, right? But most projects, there isn't a commercial reason where they have to be live in 6 months. It's a desire, and a desire is strong enough to bring that level of disruption without the right planning, in my opinion.
No, 100%. I've seen that in warehousing, to be honest. I've seen it in our section of what we do. Absolutely. Planning is very important, and making sure that not just that it does these things, but how, and is that efficient, and does that drive efficiency? Very, very similar. Lots of transferable things for what we do and what you're doing with e-commerce.
100%. And they are dependent on there. Let's face it, because there are projects where there might be decisions being made at your end that will impact integration flows in terms of data requirements and what's needed back from the back office side into e-commerce and vice versa. That if people don't sit down and engage all the stakeholders and all the third parties, if someone's working with Dispatch Cloud, and they're working with another like integration partner, you've got to take the time to plan all those parties in so that you've got consensus.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen it loads of times. We have customers sometimes will email and say, we've just replatformed to X. And it's like, okay, well, we don't integrate with X, or X doesn't work with that plugin that you've got because that X doesn't do that bit. And yeah, it happens all the time. See it a lot, yeah. So what are some of the key advantages do you think of bringing in a consultant like yourself if someone's looking to replatform over kind of trying to go it alone, I suppose?
Oh, this is where I shamelessly sell myself. No, but I think so. There are projects where having somebody like me just to help you get the structure right and know what the pitfalls are, know what the potential risks are, and know how to scrutinize the tech you're looking at can be useful, just so that people are planning properly. Then they can often say, depending on the size of the project and the budget, you just go ahead, you can do it yourself. You just need the pointers. Where I typically spend a lot of time is with SMEs who are like 10 million to 50 million plus, where actually it's a resource thing. They don't have the time to do this properly, and they don't have the expertise of running these projects. So they won't get it set up properly, and they won't engage with all the right stakeholders, and they won't understand some of the commercial implications up front of decisions they make that will impact costs later on. So one example is like integrations, and not underestimating how much impact integration work is going to cost. ERP, for example, they have an ERP and they say, well, we've got an ERP, we know how it works. Great, but that ERP might need specific data that doesn't come by default out of the platform you'll move into.
We see that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then they might not have an integration partner, and they might not have thought about that they need to have an integration layer, whether it's in Patchwork, so pick your integration layer, or a custom one an agency's got, and they haven't factored that into the project. Therefore, they've undercosted it. They've underestimated the time impact, and if the agency they end up work with isn't an integration specialist, they come to a standstill in a project where nobody's doing the integration work because nobody's scoped it. And you get all these little nuances, and even with cost negotiation, knowing the art of negotiating with vendors and other third parties about what costs are feasible, where you can push and where you shouldn't be pushing because actually you're squeezing people too far. There's that commercial lens which turns a cost model into a number to a lower number because you're a bit shrewder in understanding how you cut that up, basically.
Yeah, and I think just to add to what you've just said there, I think, we go out and do a lot of site visits. I was out just this week doing site visits, and when I speak to people, or when my team speak to people on the phone, we kind of understand the different concepts of the ways that you can run a warehouse. And if you go online and watch podcasts like this or just research things, there are definitely best practices, but these best practices need to be applied to that warehouse, and sometimes they're not the best practice for that warehouse. And I imagine it's very much the same in what you're doing. Like, it takes someone like yourself who's got a lot of experience to go in there and look at it objectively and say, actually, in your use case for what you're doing, this might not be the best solution. This might be a better idea. And I think that, consultant is a scary word for many people. When we talk about going out on site to speak to people, effectively it's a day's consultancy. And sometimes it puts people off. But I do think there's a huge amount of value in having someone in your business that's objectively looking at it and, advising. And hopefully people do see the value in that. I certainly do from when we're talking to people when we're going out there.
Yeah, 100%. I having done a project last year, and there was a warehouse change going in it. One of the big areas that I think e-commerce teams don't always understand is what is the impact of like WMS decisions, for example, in terms of the pick and pack rate and the order velocity. Because if they're planning e-com a massive push to scale up and smash it, and we're going, right, we're going to put in all these new shipping options and increase our capacity and drive demand, it's like, well, actually, is your warehouse capable? Can you or do you need technology change in the warehouse as well to facilitate that, not just the. So yeah, 100%. I see the parallels. Because every decision in any part of an ecosystem can have a knock-on impact on other parts in the chain.
Yeah. So obviously, there's a lot of buzz around AI at the moment. We're seeing the AI term being mentioned a lot in what we're doing. And to be fair, we have looked at AI and we've integrated AI into parts of our business and our software, both internally in the software that we use internally, but also within our WMS and our platforms. We're now bringing AI tools in. Where do you see AI having its most impact on e-commerce in relation to the kind of clients you're working with?
So the flippant answer is people obsessively using things like ChatGPT to create easy, lazy content. I guess the strategic lens on this is actually we're seeing some really good use cases in e-com now. So I'm going to pull out a few of them. So customer service agents that do automated ticketing management. So there are lots of chatbots out there, free, low cost, more extensive ones, like Certainly, which I think has been used by Rat and Boa as one example. And that ability to basically automate standardized inquiries like, where's my order, or what's your shipping timelines, or standard questions where customer services get inundated with the same question over and over again, and they just copy and paste. We're seeing chatbots with those scripted responses. One of the brands I spoke to reduced their customer tickets by 50% by implementing the chatbot. And when you think about that, actually, what do customer service teams enjoy doing? Responding to the same question over and over again, or doing value add stuff like fixing problems, or crossing upselling and helping a customer place orders on the phone, doing the exciting stuff, managing VIPs. You get the customer service agents. You don't need as many, but the ones that are there get a more fulfilling job, hopefully, because they're focusing on more enjoyable tasks. And the bots are just handling these.
Interesting point is chatbots. We've just launched a chatbot that connects to our WMS that does exactly that. So, where is my order? It will, because obviously our WMS has all that data. Yep. It will answer that question. So very, very interesting use of AI, and definitely an area where we've seen good uptake on that as well.
Yeah, it is, and it's all we're going to see is more and more businesses go down this. And the great thing is, we've all seen the democratization of tech is the costs are coming down. It's no longer the preserve of large enterprise to have this sort of tooling. There are, especially in the SaaS ecosystem, there are so many apps that give you entry-level pricing of $10, $20 a month. So it is affordable. Other thing, content ideation, seeing more people using. So AI is becoming more used in digital marketing for generating videos or imagery to push into campaigns. I know a few agencies do not really smart work with that, and they're using that to try and drive down their acquisition costs because they're getting greater conversion rate off of the back of the campaign. So that's really smart. And I think videos plan to be a massive growth area this year, isn't it? AI. The question will be over the quality of it, of course, and the brand control. But that's a big area. One example I love, which is taken storm in the Shopify world, and I keep nudging them to expand out to other platforms, is order editing app on Shopify. I don't know whether any of clients you work with have used it yet or not.
Yeah, we've just recently added support for it.
Oh, amazing. So yeah, Hamish and I think it's Gideon, his co-founder, have done an amazing job there. But for those who don't know it basically currently only on Shopify, but will expand. Once customers place an order, it holds it for a period of time, and you can control it 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and the customer can make edits to their order before it's pushed down into warehousing, for example, which is great because so many businesses, customer service teams spend ages making order changes, and often the orders ship quickly and they can't change it, which then means a manual process workaround in the warehouse, which is a pain in the arse. So this holds the order. Customers can then change their name, change the shipping address. You see this sometimes, and people have done it through like an Apple Pay, and they forgot to update their Apple Pay address. It's put an old address into the order, and they're like, oh, shit. And I'm saying that as somebody who did that recently on an expensive order and realised how stupid it was. Well, actually, it's great because the customer can do it. And also, it does cross and upsells in it. So AI is doing some really, really smart stuff at the moment around that piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just on that order editing app, like I said, we've recently integrated it, and it's a fantastic tool, and hopefully they will expand it onto other platforms. One of the challenges we found when people first started using it, and one of the things we've done to address that, was holding the order meant if they were also selling a low stock item on another platform, there was a chance of oversell.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we actually do bring the order into our platform now, so the stock can be adjusted across platforms because it is sold, but we put a hold on the dispatch of it, so that so basically you can use the app and still have the benefits of multi-channel stock control, which just makes the app way more usable for people selling on multiple channels. I think that it's an incredibly powerful app, and if you're not using that app, you should definitely look at it because I do think it's a very interesting tool, especially from the upselling point of view as well.
That's really, I love that, Matthew. That's a great example of how you build intelligence across the chain. That was the one area where it becomes challenging, is the inventory management when you don't have separate stock pools for channels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
well, it's an issue that we found with it, and but relatively straightforward to solve. But I think it makes it so much more usable for multi-channel sellers.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, nice example. Yeah, and the latest obsession, and I hate the terminology for it in AI, is agentic AI. Our industry just bloody loves buzzwords. But the agentic AI is where an AI bot is created to execute tasks on your behalf. So I guess it's taking the principle of like Amazon Alexas to the next level, which is you're able to basically tell an agent you want them to, I don't know, find me a holiday package to Tenerife for 10 days in June with a maximum budget of 3,000, staying in a 4-star hotel. Example, there'll be all sorts of agentic solutions being brought out to target particular purchase needs. So that's in its infancy, but it is developing quite rapidly.
Interesting. I'll do a bit more research into that. It's quite an interesting concept. So what's the future of e-commerce, do you think, James?
God, man, if I knew that, I would have put all my money in the right baskets and would retire in 12 months. I think, do you know what? I don't think the future is in terms of what you need to focus on is any different. It's just the technology that gets you there is changing rapidly, and that's a bit people need to keep an eye on. And they need to keep an eye around the whole governance and security of this, because with all this new tech, you've got to think about things like data privacy. You've got to think about the impact on customers, the security of it as well, and how reliable the data is. But that is a given, because you should have good governance and tech selection anyway. Now, I don't think there's anything different other than you've got to focus on customer experience and measure it. Not enough people measure customer experience in e-com. You might have a generic NPS somewhere in the business, but measuring the customer experience of your site and your digital channels versus just measuring the conversion and revenue side of it. I think there's more and more emphasis around loyalty, but looking at loyalty strategically, not just as a points and rewards program, but what does loyalty mean? What behavior do we want to reward and encourage, and how do we go about that? And what are the financial and non-financial perks that we need in order to deliver? And you're seeing people being smart now with thinking about non-financial rewards for customers. So this could be like exclusive events, it could be unique content, early access to new ranges, even down to things like donating to charities on their behalf. So reinforcing core values of the business, as well as giving them personalised offers and promotions, basically. And then we've kind of covered it a lot, which is investing in your tech stack. So it's not just if you're on Shopify, great. If you're on BigCommerce, great. Centra, whichever platform, but don't stand still. Stay in touch with how that ecosystem is evolving. We're talking about order editing, Matthew. That's just one example from 2024 of something that's come to fruition and scaling really quickly. What's the 2025 and 2026? There'll be all these new things coming out. You have to stay on top of where that ecosystem's going and think about which parts of that are relevant to you, and have a plan in place to start piloting, trialing, and using the new tech as it evolves.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think just thinking back over the past 5 years and some of the apps that I've seen just on the Shopify platform and people I've spoken to at trade shows, I remember when Recharge first started, and the concept of subscriptions and how that's taken off now. And I was talking to someone at an event last year about renting items, and the idea of, I don't know if it's got a buzzword in the industry, but the idea of renting and an automation of getting that back. So, maybe not buying if you don't need it, but rent it online, get you to rent it back, and an app that was being crafted to kind of put that together. So I think it's really interesting to see what people are building on top of these platforms that you can plug into your business to grow revenue.
Yeah, it's amazing. And this is why it's so important to start. This is why I love doing the role I do. And this is why we launched the Inside Commerce podcast, and why we do the newsletter, is to share with people new tech we discovered. There's a new platform that's come out around, it's a AI-driven automation workflow for product map data. And so you pick any site and you can find product data issues in there, like irrelevant data or incorrect data or missing data. And that impacts product visibility in the store, like product visibility in search in the right category, but also conversion rates from PDVs. And this new tool, Emphas from a guy called Vidar who used to head up the tech at Scandinavian brand, and my brain's just gone completely blank. Asket, that's it. So he comes from an inside, retail e-commerce business, heading up the e-com tech side and data side. Now he's launched a tool, so you'll get all these new tools coming out in the market, and I love it. I love how much choice people have now.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and see what 2025 brings, eh?
Yeah,
definitely. Well, thank you very much for your time, James. It's been great to talk to you, and thank you very much.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks for inviting me on, Matthew.